Okay, first thing I got to do is get this Zoom out of the way, which is drives me so nuts sometimes because it is blocking my slides. So there we go. Um, Here we are. All right, let's get started. We're going to talk about how to confidently plan and execute your next release without feeling overwhelmed or without regretting missed opportunities. And I've got Carlene here to help out in the chat. She's actually one of my Academy members and volunteered to help out, which is so awesome. She's pretty familiar with this material. So if you guys have questions, we'll definitely cover those mostly at the end. I'm sure I will cover a lot of the answers to your questions as we go. So, but if I don't answer them, then definitely put them in the Q&A and we'll get to that at the end of the workshop. So if you don't know who I am, if you found me somewhere and you're not from my email list, just to let you know, my name is Bree Noble. I work with musicians to help them learn how to attract their 1,000 true fans, learn how to market themselves, how to do all the business side and income generating side of music, including releasing music. If you have a question and I'm not able to answer it, or you're maybe watching this afterward, you can always email me at brie@femmusician.com. That is monitored by my assistant, and she'll make sure that I get your question directly and I'm able to answer it. So you are in the right place today on this workshop if you're planning to release music, either an EP, an album, or even a single in the next 2 years, because you want to be knowledgeable about this stuff before you get started. And I know that tons of people are planning on releasing music in 2021. So that's why I wanted to do this workshop right now, because I heard from everybody recently that one of their goals or bucket list things is that they're going to release music next year, and it's the perfect time. So let's talk about how to get it done well. You're also in the right place if you've put a ton of time and money into past releases and you didn't generate the buzz or income that you hoped for. You're also in the right place if you've invested a lot of money, and you might identify with some of these, in creating an album or EP, and then you didn't know what to do. So you put all this money and this effort, and it's like these songs are your babies, and you put it out there because you didn't really know what the steps were that you needed to do beforehand. And then you hope that putting it out there would generate a ton of buzz, and then it really, really didn't. So it was a bummer. It fell flat. You're also in the right place if you hired PR agents, radio promoters, or playlist pluggers for big bucks and then you didn't see any of the results that you wanted. You're also in the right place if you've never released any music before and you want to do it the right way. So if that is you, say yes in the chat. I am in the right place. And I am excited that this workshop is going to help you. Now, I also have, just to foreshadow a little bit, I've got a really cool bonus at the end of this workshop for action takers. It is my new Rock Your Next single release program. Focuses specifically on if you're just releasing a single. But as you'll see in this workshop, we talk about releasing singles as part of the process if you're releasing an EP or an album. So what are we going to talk about today? What are you going to learn? We're going to talk about the 3 big mistakes that you've probably made when releasing music, if you've released music before, and how to fix them. We're going to talk about the 1 component you must have when planning your next release to ensure that you don't miss out on crucial promotional and income opportunities, because that's what I heard from so many people. They had so many regrets after they released music because they didn't have a plan, and they weren't organized. They didn't know the steps and what to do. So we're going to make sure that you know those. We're also going to talk about how to use my foolproof Rock Your Next Release framework to make a big splash with your next release without feeling overwhelmed. The one big thing that keeps people from releasing music is that they feel so overwhelmed by the process. So we want to kick that overwhelm to the curb for you. So I like to start off my workshops with a fun contest. Now, this is This is not a real contest. I can't give any of you guys a blank check. I wish I could. But let's just pretend that we had a contest and that the prize is a blank check that will pay for your entire project, your entire album or EP, whatever you're releasing in 2021. And all you need to do is you need to be the person who generates the most new fans and or income from your release. Now, the reason I say fans and income is because fans are an asset. If we were to do an accounting as musicians and do a balance sheet, I used to be an accountant, so I can talk in balance sheets. Fans would be on the asset portion of your balance sheet because they enable you to, and they support you throughout your career. When fans really love what you do, they're going to support you, and having them is an asset that can generate income, even though you might not have generated it right now. So fans plus income equals your assets. So who do you think is going to win this contest? Our first contestant is Olivia. So Olivia is so excited. She cannot wait to make her album. She gets to work right away. She doesn't plan anything out because that sounds boring. She just wants to get into the studio and just make an amazing album. And that's her favorite part, right? She doesn't necessarily love all the marketing stuff. She feels super uncomfortable doing it because it's not her forte. So she comes out of the studio and she has a masterpiece and she cannot wait for the world to hear it. But when she gets like 2 weeks out from releasing, she realizes, oh, I don't have a marketing plan. I don't know how I'm gonna really get a buzz around this album, and I don't have any money to do it with because I went over budget in the studio because I was so focused on creating this masterpiece. So that's Olivia. And then we have Brooke. So Brooke, she decides to map the big picture out in advance. She plans out everything. How's she going to market it? Where's she going to get income from? What is she going to do and in what order? And she maps out everything on a timeline so she knows when she needs to do things and when she might need to bring in help for things that she's not that good at. She doesn't feel very comfortable with the marketing stuff, just like Olivia, but that's okay because she's got a plan around it and she knows how she's going to tackle it and she does it anyway. And so she feels really, really good about the outcome. So is it going to be Olivia? Who's going to generate the most assets for their music business? Olivia, or is it going to be Brooke? Well, I think I stacked this contest. It's a little obvious, right? We know Brooke is going to be the winner. And I like to say that I take the Olivias of the world and turn them into the Brookes of the world. And that's what we're going to talk about doing in this workshop. So just a short background on me, just so you know who I am, where I came from, why I talk about releasing music. I have been a total music nerd for years. There's a picture of me on the left when I was in my madrigal group in high school. I was in all these choirs. I knew that I wanted to sing and perform. And that's me in college on the right. And right next to the guy with the really weird looking face. We got to perform at all of these places all over California and the Western states. We went out every other weekend. And I got the chance to record 3 albums while I was in the group. It was a great experience. I got the chance to record in a studio where people like the Beach Boys and Kenny Loggins had recorded in Santa Barbara. And it was an amazing experience. I was totally hooked and I wanted to be a recording artist after that. But I really didn't have any idea how to do it. So after school, I started trying to find other bands that I could perform with because I didn't feel confident as a solo artist. I didn't feel like I knew anything about the music business. And so I thought, well, there must be people out there that know better. So I used to go on the Recycler, which is kind of like the classifieds of the LA area, and just search for these bands that I could fit myself into. And it was a very frustrating experience. It was like trying to fit, a square peg into a round hole constantly. And a lot of failed attempts. This band, we actually made it to the point of having a CD, but I thought, she's got her branding down, she's got a name, she knows what she's doing with marketing. So I finally found the right thing, and this is going to work. But then I found out as we released this CD that her entire marketing plan for the CD was, we're going to thrust a box of CDs on every person in the group and tell them to go sell them to their family and friends. Now, why would my family and friends want to buy this CD? They had never even heard us before. We had not gone out and performed before creating the CD. We had not tried to generate fans in any way. Her idea is, this is our debut into the world, and this is going to be our vehicle. But it turns out that the only vehicle it was to break up the band. Because none of us wanted to have to force sales on our family and friends of something that they didn't even know anything about. She had no other plans for how we were going to market this CD, and it just caused a ton of turmoil. And like literally within a few months, the band broke up. So that was my whole experience, my first experience with releasing music, and I was shell shocked. And I thought, oh my gosh, clearly they don't know better than I do, and I don't know what I'm doing. So maybe I should just give up on this music dream, because I just clearly don't know how to successfully release music. But I knew that I had a God-given talent. I had a passion, is like in my bones. I wanted to release music, and I was writing all kinds of music. So I just, all I really wanted was to share my talent and songs with the world. I wanted to share my story and my message and impact people with my songs. I wanted to build a fan base that loves my music and supports my career. But I also wanted to be able to recoup the money that I invested to record my first album. And I just didn't know how I was going to do that. So once I realized that no one else knew better than I did, I realized that what I needed to do was just use my entrepreneurial nature and go out on a limb and release music on my own. Because I'd seen other people doing it and they didn't have any better results. So why not? Why not try to do it myself? So I started releasing my own albums in 2006. And like I said, marrying my musician side with my entrepreneurial side. I was actually a business major as well in college, and I had experience working at an opera company as a director of finance. So I had this business side, I had this music side, but I just didn't understand how to put them together. And so I finally just said, that's it. Like, I'm going to make this happen. And so what happened from that was I financed my own CD, and I put out physical and digital distribution. I booked all the tours myself. I did all my own PR, and I set up my own release parties. And the results were that I sold out of my first 1,000 CDs of my first release. I was able to book mini tours all over California. And on the PR side, I was able to be featured in magazines and the cover of 2 sections of the OC Register. So the Orange County Register is a major paper in Southern California. And although I wasn't featured on the cover, I was featured on the cover of local sections, which was a big deal. And I was able to do that entirely on my own. I also was able to break even on the production of my holiday CD through a pre-order campaign. So at that point, I had built up my fan base somewhat, and I had these assets. And that's how I was able to use a pre-order campaign to actually break even. Imagine that. Imagine what it would be like to get your CDs in hand, and at that time, you've already paid it off because you have enough pre-orders to pay them off. Do you think that that would make you excited to go out and sell that CD, knowing that every single dollar that you made after that would be all in your pocket? That'd be exciting, right? So at that point, in 2007, I also started the Women of Substance Radio. Maybe some of you have heard of it. And while I was doing that, I met tons of other artists like me that were really, really clueless about how to release music. They had amazing music, but they weren't getting it out there because they didn't know what to do and they felt like they needed to rely on other people. I met hundreds of overwhelmed Olivias. And at that point, I realized I needed to create this framework to help more artists get their music out there confidently and plan the release so they actually made the most of it. They didn't feel like all that effort and all that money was wasted because it fell on deaf ears. That's when the Rock Your Next Release framework was created. So I'm going to get into 3 big mistakes, as I promised, that you may have made if you've done releases before, or if you haven't done a release, I want to make sure you don't make these big mistakes. So the first mistake is thinking that fan-based building happens after the release instead of during. So let me explain what that is and why that happens. So if you remember the old model, non-digital model of releasing music, maybe like mid 2000, 2005-ish, before streaming, even maybe before things like iTunes, anything before that, this is what the model looked at like. They set up the album or EP release as the beginning of the promotional process. So let me know in the chat. I would love to know, do any of you guys think, okay, I'm going to release my music and then I'm going to promote it? Is that what you've been thinking? And of course, you are going to promote it once you release it, but I want to show you how there is a lot more to the story. So in the new music industry, your release offers a season of promotional opportunities. The journey to the full release can be a promotional opportunity along the way. You can have months of releasing a few singles on the way to the full release, and it can get people super excited. It can help you really increase your fan base along the way. So in the old model, we relied on radio to promote singles and to drive sales of the album or EP after the release. So this is what it looked like. And maybe you remember this, unless you're like really young and you've always grown up in the digital era. I definitely remember this being this way. So they would release an album or EP, and that would be the beginning of the whole cycle. And then they would release a radio single. And you'd hear that radio single, and maybe you really liked it, and you might make you decide to go out and buy the album, but maybe not because you've only heard that one song, right? You're not sure if you want to buy the album, and you can't hear the whole album because we didn't have streaming, So this is before streaming, before like CD listening bars, like you couldn't hear the album. So you had to rely on what you heard. So then they release another single and you'd be like, okay, that's cool. I like that song and I like that other song. So maybe I'll go buy the album now because I've heard 2 songs I like. But plenty of other people would be like, they wouldn't be excited enough to go buy the album. And then the third song would come out on the radio. And if that was a winner, then people would be like, okay, there's 3 songs on this album I like. I'm going to go buy it. But it took a lot to get people to move, right? Whereas in the new streaming model, singles can attract new fans and create anticipation for the full release. So if someone hears a song that they like now, there's not a lot of commitment. They can be like, "Oh, I'm going to follow that person on Spotify cuz I like that song," or "I'm going to add it to a playlist." They don't have to go out and buy the album in order to continue to listen to you and become a fan of yours. And in the social media era, singles can be used as marketing vehicles. So what's great about singles before the full release is they can be like a reason to talk about your music. Every time you release a single, you can generate more buzz and be like, oh, here's a new single from my upcoming album, and just generate that buzz that way. You can use so many things with social media. You can create video content around the single. You can get it onto use PR vehicles, blogs and podcasts and radio and newspapers and whatever you can get, radio interviews to talk about your single, and always be pointing toward, oh, the album's coming soon or the EP is coming soon. In the new streaming model, singles can build momentum for physical pre-orders. So then we can do a pre-order campaign like I talked about, and you've got all these people excited about the singles. They're going to want to buy your album and support you. So this is what the new music industry looks like. You release a single, you get some people that like it, and they probably follow you. They stream it, they might add it to a playlist, and maybe they'll buy a download version of it, right? You release another single, well, these people up here that already liked your first single, well, they're going to be notified about this new one, because if they followed you on Spotify, Spotify will tell them, guess what? This person has a new single. Go listen to it. So then they're going to be even more tied to you and more attracted to you. And then if they liked that one, then they might be even more likely to find out more about you, get on your email list, all that stuff. And then you release a third single. Well, look at how this has grown, because they're being notified, or they're on your social media and they're seeing this third single and getting excited about it. So now you've got this big group of people that's really excited about what you're doing. And then you say to them, guess what? The album is coming out. If you pre-order it now, I'll include, some really cool piece of merch with it. You can buy it in a bundle and it's this price and it's only for my super fans. So you can do things like that you couldn't do in the past, because you're picking these people up along the way. They're already liking your stuff, they're knowing about you, and they're getting that anticipation for the full album. So I'd love to know in the chat, does that make sense to you? Do you see how those models are different? How the old model worked and how it works now? Maybe I'll check in with Carlene while I get a drink of water and see what's going on in the chat, if there's been any conversation about what I've talked about so far.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad everyone's saying it makes sense. And yes, I just learned something. But there are two questions. Laura Barron says, how do you feel about a radio campaign with a radio plugger with excellent connections? Do you want to do that one now or at the end?
Well, I can comment on it really quickly. I say it depends on what level you're at, Laura, and what you're willing to spend. I mean, I know I've heard your music. I know it's really good. I know that you've been in this industry for a while. So I think if you're willing to pay as much as it's going to cost and you think you can capitalize on it. The biggest problem I have with people doing those kinds of things in the beginning of their career is that they can't capitalize on it. You get your song on the radio, you want your fans calling in saying, oh, I heard that song, I want to hear it again. You wanted to be able to take advantage of that. And if you don't have any fan base to help support you and expand what you're able to do PR wise, whether it's radio or newspaper or blogs or anything, then it's not a good idea to pay a lot of money for that, which it will cost you a good deal of money. So I would definitely also, I would ask around, because there's definitely good and bad radio pluggers that will do well for you, and then some that will just take your money and just kind of mail it in, So, and what's the other question?
There actually are a couple now that are kind of related, or two of them are. When you release a single, you said, quote, and then they might download it. But how do you prevent them from downloading the release in the first place without paying?
Well, I mean, I think I'll get to that in a minute, because I'm not sure exactly what they're asking, but we're talking about streaming versus, when I say download, I'm talking about they would buy a download, which some people still do nowadays. Okay.
My internet keeps coming in and out. I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
noticed that. That's okay. Well, I'll jump to the next mistake and then we'll check in on the chat again.
Okay.
Okay, mistake number 2, focusing on only one aspect of the release strategy at a time. So, what I mean by this is in the old model, if you were with a label, there were departments for everything, right? They had the booking department, they had the production department, they had the development department and the um, marketing department, you know, all those things, right? But now you are a DIY artist and you have to wear all of these hats. You have to do all of these things. So you must juggle multiple balls in the air at once to make sure that you don't miss out on crucial opportunities. And this is exactly why people get overwhelmed. I totally understand why they get overwhelmed because it's really hard. This is what it looks like, right? You've got all these things out here that you have to keep track of as an indie artist. And if you drop the ball on any of them, you will miss out on a lot. And I'll show you in a minute how it's so easy to, you know, if you drop the ball on one, you get behind. So we can't focus on just one of these at a time. If you were just focused on the production and you produced this great album, then you wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't have also focused on booking some tours to promote it or figuring out how you're going to market it. And so you're losing a lot of time here. You've got to keep your eye on all of these balls. There are 7 potentially missed opportunities if you drop one of these balls. So, asset gathering for marketing must be done during the recording process. So, here's an example of if you didn't have your eye on the marketing ball, when you were in the studio, you might totally forget to get the marketing footage that you could use for so many things down the road, for behind the scenes footage, for um, you know, getting pictures and videos and maybe even doing some live streams to your fans from the studio, maybe journaling about your experience in the studio. These are all assets you can use later, but you can't recapture those. I know when I went in the studio the first time, I was lucky that I came out with like 3 pictures because I just wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't top of mind. So you always have to have your marketing hat on wherever you are. Second missed opportunity would be submitting to be considered for Spotify editorial playlists. So if you know anything about Spotify, they've got these really great curated playlists that are curated from Spotify itself. There's lots of other curated playlists from, you know, people that are influencers, but these are actually by Spotify. And if you don't submit to them when you're doing your release, you can't go back and do it. So you can't, cannot be an afterthought. You cannot release and then be like, oh, I meant to submit to Spotify for consideration for their Spotify curated playlist. Like they will not allow you to. So you have to keep this in mind as you're going through the release process. And it's a great opportunity. If you got on one of those playlists, you would have a ton of plays. Okay, third opportunity that you might miss is using singles as a promotional vehicle. I already talked about that. You want to release the singles before the album or EP, not after. Fourth potentially missed opportunity is building a tour around your album or EP release. So I just had a student that did hers and she built a tour around her release and it was great, but she had to plan it many months in advance because you can't, like once you're like, oh phew, I got this thing released, okay, now I'm going to book a tour. Well, it's going to take a while, right? You have to connect with venues, you have to follow up, you have to see when they have openings in their schedule, which probably won't be right away. By the time you're able to get that tour together, it's going to be 3 or 4 months out, and that is not going to be new news anymore. It's going to be old news. So you have to be able to do the booking while you're in the release process. The next missed opportunity could be raising money throughout the release process. For example, doing a crowdfunding campaign, and I'm not talking about a big, complicated, scary 90-day crowdfunding campaign. I'm talking about just doing a nice little 30-day crowdfunder to allow people that want to support you to support you. And if you don't do that during the process, you can't go back and do that later because you need to crowdfund for what you're working on, not after you did it. Same thing with doing a pre-order campaign. You can't do that later. You got to do that before you release. So you need to make sure that you are always thinking about these income opportunities. Next potential missed opportunity is physical CD and merch sales. You're going to need to get your CDs made before you release so you have them. And if you don't think that CDs are still being purchased today, they absolutely are. I did a poll in one of my groups a while back, and everybody says, yes, absolutely, people are purchasing CDs. My student that I just talked to yesterday, who just recently released, she said mostly what she sold is like her CDs. And then she sold them in bundles with other things, but people wanted to buy the CD. And you need to get your merch in order. You can't, after you release, be like, maybe I should get some merch that's related to my album branding. Like, no, you have to buy that in advance so you're ready to sell it when people are hot to buy it. And then finally, digital sales and distribution. Believe it or not, people that I know still are releasing CDs and not putting them on Spotify or any digital services. And someone had asked earlier, like very first thing, about what digital service to use to distribute your music. I mean, to me, there's the big obvious ones of CD Baby, TuneCore, DistroKid. There's some others that are good, Ditto Music. There, there's pluses and minuses to each one. So you just really need to research them. I always love CD Baby. I've had great success with them and they're very easy to work with. So to me, that would be the top choice, but there's definitely other opportunities out there as well. But if you don't get on all these digital services, you're going to miss out on so much audience that you won't be able to get. It's so easy to promote things on social and send people to Spotify or whatever digital service your audience likes. But if you don't have it on digital, they can't even listen. So that's another thing you've got to get set up along the way. Okay, so I want to hear in the chat, like, who is determined to not miss out on any of those opportunities? Because I don't want you guys to put all of this money and effort into your release and then realize that you missed out on so many things. So I want you to declare in the chat, like, I am not going to miss out on these opportunities. Declare that for yourself. Okay, mistake number 3. Oh, would you have something to say?
I do.
Sure.
We're getting a few overwhelmed, but Michael says he's not going to miss out. But I can't remember, Bree. People are asking, what was the third missed opportunity? What was the fifth one? So do you go through them again at the end? I forget.
They will become apparent as I'm going through the Rock Your Next Release framework. So I will mention those again.
Thank you. And lots of
there will be a replay of this as well. So if you want to go back and look at it, you can absolutely do that.
Okay. People are excited though about taking advantage.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so mistake number 3 is not creating a timeline-based plan for the season of releases. As you just saw, right, there's a lot of missed opportunities if you don't have a plan. So don't try to keep up with multiple project timelines. You need an all-inclusive 15-month plan. And I'll explain in a minute why it's 15 months, because that, for those of you that said overwhelmed, that might sound really overwhelming. So I'll explain that in a minute. But think about this, right? Imagine that you have 8 watches on your arm, and they are all in a different time zone. So we've got people here from so many different time zones. One of them's in Australian time zone, one is in UK, one is in Eastern, Central, Mountain, Pacific, and 2 others, Austria and wherever else someone was from. Imagine that you had 8 watches on your hand and you had them all in different time zones and you were constantly trying to figure out what time it is. It's so confusing, right? It's trying to keep up with 8 different timelines at once. What you need is one timeline to rule them all. Because if you don't, you will miss out on those 7 missed opportunities that I mentioned because of the fact that things come up. Like I said, you have to get your album, you have to get your singles, an album, and an EP into Spotify as you're releasing them, or you can't take advantage of that option to get considered for their playlist. So there's so many things along the way that you will miss if you aren't able to keep track of them. You can't keep track of 8 different timelines at once. It also allows you to confidently outsource and delegate when needed, right? We don't have to be experts in everything. I certainly am not an expert in branding and design. I bring in other people for that. And so when you get to that place where you need to figure out your branding and design, and if that's not your thing, you can bring someone in for that. But knowing when that is important because you've got to be able to find somebody and make sure that they're available and all that stuff. So that's another thing that this timeline helps you with. And then it helps you stay organized and sane, right? I'm the type of person that I want a list of things to do and know exactly what to do when. And the only way I could do that is knowing where they fit in on the timeline. So now we're going to get into the Rock Your Next Release framework. And this shows you the whole framework all laid out here. So it all starts with planning, right? We've got 4 different areas and encompassing 8 different focus areas that I mentioned. So the planning is the thing that rules them all. And then we go to product. So the product includes your recording and then your distribution and branding. And then your promotion, that's the biggest one, right? Because there's so much involved. There's the marketing side, which includes PR. There's Spotify playlists, which is their playlist plus other curators that you can try to contact. There is release parties, and there is touring. And then finally, there is profit. So, where can we make money along the way and then after our release? So, I'm going to go into each section here. If questions come up during this, be sure to save them to the end or put them in the question box, and I'll be sure to answer them at the end because this is where I'm explaining how it all works and how it all fits together. So, if I don't answer your question here, definitely put the question in the question box. So, planning. So, planning is really a 12-month process and starting before your release. Now, I want you to know that this 12 months is to make sure that you absolutely have enough time to get everything done and you're not stressed and certain things that are out of your control, there's some extra buffer time built in. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, it's going to take me 12 months to release something. It might not, but I like to give you that cushion because there's nothing worse than feeling like you had this goal of getting your release done in 6 months, but then there was all these issues with the studio. You couldn't get the booking time that you needed, or, your drummer got sick, or, there was the studio engineer had a problem getting your mix done in time. Those are out of your control. And you don't want those things to just like throw a huge wrench in your plan. So I like to build in some time here. So that is why we give it 12 months before and then 3 months after to continue to promote. And these are all the things that you are doing. 5 months out from your release, I always do a reset planning session because at this point, you're like, okay, I know that I got this much in for crowdfunding. I know that I was able to stay within budget in the studio, or I went way over budget, or I was under. So I know a little bit more about the reality of the project. So I want to introduce you to Camille. What I love about Camille is that she took this to heart with the planning. She said, I was going to release my album in like a few months, and I totally reassessed it because I saw the value in doing this planning that I was talking about. And so she just decided to push it out so she could realistically get everything done and not have those missed opportunities. And she, using this system, she said, oh my gosh, your spreadsheets and administrative helps kept my brain from going in circles. So she was someone who was prone to the overwhelm. And, I don't blame her. Like, keeping track of 8 different areas at once, that's not easy. But having a system will help you not get overwhelmed. I also want to introduce you to Gia. So Gia said that Bree has laid everything out step by step. I know what I should be doing pre and post release. So that's 12 months before and the 3 months after. I know when to put my next song out, when to do the video, and how the promotional process works. It is quantifiable progress because I can check things off. This is what I love. I love checking things off of a list. If that's you, say amen, right? And stay on track to release my songs. So I'm so excited for her. She's already started releasing some of her singles toward her EP. And because of the planning process, she was able to do that confidently. Now let's talk about your product. This is the musician's favorite part. This is, we're talking about the recording process. We all love this, right? And I recommend that you try to start recording 10 months out. Now you might think, oh my gosh, if I record 10 months out and then I release, it's going to feel like old news. But keep in mind, number one, it's only old news to you. Nobody else has heard it. And I know how we do this, right? We're songwriters. Then, like, as soon as we finish recording, we start writing new songs and we're excited about those. But we want to do this music justice. So we've got to give it time. And also, we're going to be releasing singles along the way. I'll show you how that process works in the marketing section. And so it's not going to feel like it's so long to release your full project because you're going to be releasing things along the way. So this is what we're doing during this timeline. And like I said, we built in some time here for the mixing and mastering because we need to have that mix and mastered stuff. Drop dead deadline on all of that being 4 months out because we want to start releasing singles 3 months out. And that takes time to get it into your digital distributor. You're also going to want to create your physical CDs. So we need all these mixes by that point. That should give them enough time with all that they need to do on their end. And then we've got the branding and distribution. So this is going to involving figuring out, what is the theme of your album or EP? And how is that branding going to work? How are you going to brand each single so it relates, but it still looks different? And if you need to bring in help here, you need to get a photo shoot, all that stuff, you need to give yourself time. So that's why this is an 8-month timeline. And then you also, you need to figure out your digital distribution. Who are you going to use? Who are you going to use for your physical CD creation? You need to set all of this stuff up, and your drop dead deadline for your CDs is 3 weeks out because you don't want to be like biting your nails before your CD release party going, are these CDs going to arrive? I've been in that situation before. There's always some kind of delays. There's always shipping delays or something on their end. So you got to build in that time. So this is Athena. Athena said, I sure wish that I was taking your class a year ago, but even now it's helping me from being overwhelmed. She really was struggling with the overwhelm. She says, it feels like lesson by lesson, you are demystifying this huge, overwhelming process. Okay, now this is the big one. This is the promotion. And we've got 4 areas in here. We've got marketing, we've got booking, we've got Spotify playlists, which I separated out because it's really that important nowadays. And then we've got CD release parties. So marketing is a 12-month process. It starts 9 months out when you're in the studio. Like I said earlier, you need to get those marketing collateral while you're in the studio. Don't ignore it. Get somebody to be in charge of that. You're also doing a bunch of research to figure out, who can I contact PR wise? What radio stations should I contact? There's so much research behind all of your marketing that needs to start early. So you're not behind the 8 ball when it's time to be actually doing it. You want to have like 7 months of content as you're going through your release process of what are you telling your fans on your email list and when? What are you telling people on your social media? How are you hyping all of this up? So you want to be thinking about that in advance. So you're not every day going, oh, what am I going to say today? You know, it's so much easier to have this all planned out. You're also going to want to create a video. I think it's really helpful after your full release is out to use a video to continue that promotional period to get people re-excited about what you have to offer. And so you're doing all of this, getting somebody to help you with your video. And then after your release is out, you're going to be promoting yourself. You're going to be promoting all these singles along the way. And it's just going to be a process that's all mapped out. So you just execute, 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 and you're not wondering, what should I be doing? And when you've taken pre-orders, you're going to be sending out CDs. You're going to let everybody know when you're released. And then you're going to be using this video at this point. Now, the Spotify playlist, it's not a lot to do, but there's a lot of research involved and there's a lot of reaching out. So you want to start researching early. What playlist would be great for the singles that you have and the songs on your album or EP? We want to be very specific. We want to listen to the playlist and be like, oh, my song would fit perfectly in here. It's got the right mood and people could see why this would fit. That's the only way that when you reach out to people, they're going to be like, oh yeah, this song totally fits. I'm going to add this. So you're going to do your research. You're going to start reaching out to people once your singles are released and try to get on some curated playlists. And as well as you're obviously going to be submitting to the Spotify editorial, as I mentioned earlier. And then we are talking about release parties. I love release parties. I think they're so fun, but you need to plan them in advance. You can't just 2 weeks out be like, I think I'll have a release party, especially if you're doing a physical one. And there's so many ways you can do it. You could do it in a local organization's building. You can do an outside one. I also recommend you do online and offline because there's so many of your fans that aren't local, right? But it's great to have that local experience. And you can really utilize that to get a lot of local PR for yourself. But you need to make sure you've got everything in place. And you can get sponsors for a release party. You can get people, donating food and drink. And, local businesses really love to get involved with local musicians. And you've got an audience, so they can be exposed to their stuff. So you're going to invite the press as well and get a lot of people to help you out, volunteers. You need to make sure that you are not the only one doing all this, because when you're at, if you have to do your own merch table, you're not going to be able to talk to people. So just make sure that you're well equipped for your release party. And you can even bring in some, another band to open for you, and they'll bring in some audience. There's so many things to do around this, but it can't be an afterthought. And then, like I said, do an online one as well. And then finally, there's the booking side. So with the booking side, you need to start early, as I mentioned earlier. You need to start figuring out, where do you want to go? What venues do you want to contact? What would work really well for you as an artist and the style of music that you do? Look at other artists that are like you and see where they've been playing. And you need to start reaching out because it takes a while. You have to follow up a lot with bookings, right? So make sure that you start doing that early so you can actually have some kind of a tour or like just a local bunch of bookings around your release to just really generate that buzz. So I want to introduce you to Sarah. Sarah said that she was in the marketing phase when she started using the Rock Your Next Release framework. And she said it saved her from missing out on so many opportunities. She loves my well-ordered, easy to understand approach. She says, if you follow the plan, you will be successful. I also want to introduce you to, that's next. I'm so excited to introduce you to this other person that I got ahead of myself, but I will in a second. This is the profit section. The profit section is it's it's all along the way. I like to call it like picking up pennies along the way, because obviously you're going to make the most of your money when you do your pre-order campaign, when you already have your full album or EP out. But I don't want you to forget about things you can do along the way. You can do a 30-day crowdfunding campaign, as I mentioned. There are just people that support you that just would love to give. Maybe they don't want to buy product. Maybe their love language is giving. And if you don't give them that opportunity, they won't get that opportunity. You want to figure out how you're going to do your crowdfunding campaign, set up your pre order. As I mentioned earlier, with the release parties, you can get sponsors for those to make some money. And then, of course, you're going to make money off of selling. And I highly recommend that you create some bundles. Those have done really well with merch. People may not want to just buy a CD on its own, although they still do. They might love to buy like a super fan bundle or a complete works kind of bundle or something like that, or some really cool merch if you've got some great branding. So this is what I was excited to show you. My friend Karen, what's so great about this is that she said that as a result of the Rock Your Next Release framework, she was able to create a plan, and she impressed someone so much with her plan and her budget that she was able to get an anonymous donor to fund her entire project. Like that, the whole thing about the blank check at the beginning, right? She showed that she had a plan. She knew exactly what she was going to do and when, because she used this framework, and it got somebody so excited they wanted to support her project. And she says that she has a budget where she can actually look at working with a PR agent, social media manager, and a professional arranger, all because she impressed this anonymous donor with having a plan using the Rock Your Next Release framework. So I'm really excited about this for her. So these are the 8 areas that I talked about. These are the 8 balls that you don't want to drop. And when you look at this, I get why you might automatically feel overwhelmed. But I have created something that will help you not have to feel that overwhelm, not to help you feel like you're not going to drop these balls. So if you take anything away today, I want you to know that you can confidently plan and execute your next release without feeling overwhelmed or regretting missed opportunities. The question is, are you going to be overwhelmed Olivia, or are you going to be Brooke, who in creating a plan, she knew exactly what she needed to do when she used a timeline, and she was able to bring in people to help her along the way with things that she didn't either love doing or feel comfortable doing. The big question is, how can you apply the Rock Your Next Release framework so you can avoid dropping the ball on anything in the 8 different focus areas without feeling overwhelmed? It is time for you to make a big splash with your next release and not look back after it's over with regret about missed promotional and income opportunities. It is time to follow a 15-month timeline-based blueprint that takes the guesswork out of releasing your next album or EP. Now, if you're like, heck yes, I want to follow that blueprint, I am ready, would you like for me to help you with that? If you would like for me to help you with that, I am excited to tell you that the Rock Your Next Release program is open for enrollment. And let me give you an idea of what is involved in the Rock Your Neck Release program. So inside, you will find a complete 15-month timeline-based blueprint integrating every step in the 8 focus areas. Now, let me be clear. This is not a 15-month course. That would be insane, right? What it is it is a blueprint to hold your hand along the way through this process so you know exactly what to do when. Like I said, integrating all those 8 areas into one timeline to rule them all, so you know, okay, I am 8 months out, I need to do this, 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 and this. Now, if you were to go through the course and learn about how to do all the things, that should only take you a few weeks. So what I recommend is that people go in, they go through all the video training, all the training inside of there, and they understand the big picture. And then when you're going along and you're actually, going through the months before your release, you're able to go back and reference that, but you've got this whole blueprint, these checklists to tell you what you're doing when. So just to be clear, it is not a 15-month course, but it is a 15-month plan that will hold your hand throughout the process. And keep in mind, it doesn't mean you have to take 15 months to do your whole release process. There may be things in there that can cut down the time. Maybe you produce your own music at home, so you don't have to worry about not being in control of getting your mixes back on time. Maybe you could record your entire EP in a week and mix it in a week. That will take a lot of time off of the timeline. So what's great is this is building in all the time that you might need, but it doesn't mean it's going to actually take you that long. This program includes video-based training by myself, and as well as select industry experts for each step. So for example, I've got somebody who comes in and talks specifically about branding, my friend Greg Wilnaugh from Music Brand, because that's not my area of expertise. He helps you understand how to brand your release, how to brand your singles in relation to your release, how to come up with your branding, how to, all that stuff. I bring in my friend Angela Mastrogiacomo to talk about press releases because she's a PR expert. I bring in my friend Mike Warner to talk about Spotify playlists in depth to understand how it all works and how you can find curators of playlists. I bring in my friend Tara B to talk about release parties and how to set that up for success to make it a profitable release party. There's lots of different training in here that's done by myself and other experts in specific areas. Also, we have got checklists for each month of your release. So like I said, I'm very big on checking things off. And I loved the idea of you knowing, okay, I am 8 months out. I'm going to print off this checklist and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I've done all these things. And it integrates everything. So it has reminders for booking. It has reminders for marketing. It has reminders for, your release party or all the different 8 areas, what you need to do during that month. And I think that this is hands down the thing that sets people up for success the best is having this timeline and these checklists. We also have some really cool bonuses. So I have created for you a complete 7-month social media and email plan with suggested themes and post copy to support your complete season of releases. So I don't know your release specifically. I can't talk about your songs, but I can make suggestions on what you talk about in each post and when to do them. So it's going to be really, really useful for you. Okay, next we have course bonus number 2, budget spreadsheets to help you plan your project and keep within budget and all along the way. So like I said, you do like a budget reorganization 5 months out. And so this is going to really keep you on budget. And like I said, I used to be an accountant. So I set this up. So all you have to do is put your numbers in. It will calculate everything for you. It makes it really, really easy. Then we have course bonus number 3, which is research and tracking sheets for PR, radio, and Spotify playlists. So what that is I personally do not like working with a blank page. So if I don't have a system set up, it's really hard for me to just start using a new system. So I created this for what I would want. So I set up these systems for you. I've got spreadsheets for you to keep track of your research for when you're looking for PR people, whether it's, newspaper or blogs or podcasts. It's research for radio and for Spotify playlists. And you can keep track of which ones you found, their contact information, whether you've contacted them or not. And it's just a system to make it super easy for you. And then we've got the ultimate tour booking system for research, tracking, and follow up for your release tour or your release series of concerts. If you don't want to go out on tour, you want to stay local, that's cool. But I recommend that you really do some shows around this, even if they're virtual shows. Do shows around your release because that's going to build up the buzz for your release. And, it's just such a great time to get people excited about buying your album and your merch and stuff because it's new. So, this is a whole system of making sure that you keep track of who you've talked to, when you talk to them, the venue, the address, that, which ones have been booked, all that stuff. It's all set up for you. Also, newly, I am going to start having one live Q&A call each month and potentially bringing in some experts to help you guys with things that you want extra help with. And I'm really excited about this because I know that sometimes you're going through the program and you might be getting stuck on something, or you might have a question that maybe, I didn't go as in depth on. And that's what these calls are for, to make sure that you don't get stuck anywhere along the way. So that will be a once a month call that we'll have. And of course, we'll have replays, recordings as well. And then a reminder, as I mentioned at the beginning, anybody who decides to invest in the Rock Your Next Release program while we're on this workshop is going to get my Rock Your Next single release. So what's cool about this is, yes, we cover all of this in the Rock Your Next Release framework, but this particular course is pulling out everything that's just related to releasing a single. So when you're at that point where you're going to release a single, you just look at this and be like, okay, I need to do these things because I'm releasing a single right now. Maybe you're not even ready to release your album or EP anytime soon, but you want to release a single to just like test the waters and test out the system. This would be a great way to do that because it's only things that are relevant for releasing a single and all the steps. So, all those things I mentioned, the whole framework for Rock Your Next Release, the blueprint, all the extra help from the experts, all these bonuses, 7 months social media and email plan, the booking follow-up system, the done for you spreadsheets, and then the Rock Your Next single release bonus. These are all, if I were to sell them separately, they would actually be sold for $4,882. But I know that you guys have a lot of expenses around your release. There's no way you could afford that for sure. And so I wanted to make sure that this was affordable for you so you can still be able to create the recording that you love, be able to work with the producer you love, but still take care of all the other parts of your release. So this program is $497. And if that still seems like a little much right now, I've got a 3-pay plan. You can get started for just $179. All you need to do is go to rockyournextrelease.com/buy now. And I just want to remind you, remember how Camille, she changed her release date when she realized how important the planning was. Remember how Gia was just so excited because she had all the steps and she knew exactly what to do when. Remember how Sarah did not miss out on marketing opportunities because she had this system? And remember how Karen was able to attract a donor that is paying for her entire project so she can actually bring in people like PR managers and social media managers and professional arrangers to make this the best album she's ever created, all because she used this framework. She had a plan and she impressed someone that she knew what she was doing. That is what the Rock Your Next Release framework can do for you. And it's just $497 or 3 payments of $179. I released this course, I think it's been maybe 7-8 months ago. And we already have hundreds of students using this framework and absolutely loving it. So I want to invite you to join those students in the Rock Your Next Release program. I had my assistant make a real quick video just to kind of scroll through and show you how much is involved in this program. It is very, very jam-packed with content. And like I said, we've got checklists for every month. So wherever you are, you can pull out that checklist and make sure that you've done everything on it. We also have a complete project checklist of everything. So if you prefer to work like that, like this is the entire project and it's literally like almost 200 items, right? But it's over like a year. So if you like that, that's great. If that overwhelms the heck out of you and you don't want to look at all of that at once, then just look at the monthly checklists. I tried to build this for people, that would work the best for the way that you like to work. So I am going to start this timer. For those who want that fast action bonus of getting the Rock Your Next single release, as well as this program for just $497 or 3 payments of $179, you'll need to grab it within this 15 minutes to get that bonus, because this bonus is $197 value and it's being sold separately. So this is a really, really great bonus, and I want to make sure if you want it that you get it. So we've got a 15-minute timer that I'm going to start right now, and I'm going to answer questions while the timer is going on. So I'm sure that Carlene has seen a whole bunch of questions in the chat and Q&A box.
I've actually written them down in case I lost
my voice is tired, so.
Yeah, I bet. There are just a few questions at the end here. I'm interested but not ready yet. Are the bonuses still available if I buy it in the future? I missed the cost. Can you go over it again? But you are going to send a replay.
Yeah,
right?
there will be a replay, so you can absolutely go back and watch it again. As far as the bonuses, I can't guarantee that this bonus will be available at a later time. So, and this on-demand bonus here for people that are at the webinar live, that will not be available after this timer ends. So, because it's such a valuable bonus. The other bonuses are available for the next 5 days, I believe it is. So you'll see in the email how much longer you have to get those bonuses. But this one is only available on this workshop right now.
Okay. This has to do with how long between single releases.
So in my framework, I suggest 1 month between single releases. And here's why. And I get a lot of questions of like, can I just release every single song on my album as a single and then release the album? And I'm like, sure you can. But here's why I suggest 3. To me, 3 is kind of the sweet spot. It really ramps it up toward that full release. But if you release every single one, you're going to totally burn out. Or you're not going to do any of them justice because you're trying to spread yourself too thin. I feel like really doing 3 singles justice. And when I mean justice, I mean like trying to get some PR specifically for those singles, getting them on blogs and podcasts and, other places where people will discover them. Really making some content around those singles specifically, doing a story behind the song video, maybe doing an acoustic version of it, finding different ways to make the promotion of that single interesting. You can do that over a month, and then you can go to another song, and then you can go to another song. But after 3, if you've really been doing it hard, you're probably pretty burnt out. And I don't want you to be burnt out for your full release if you did that for, say, 12 songs in a row. So that's kind of why I came up with that 3, and I believe it's a sweet spot.
Good. And then a couple other singles questions. Can I get my raw song recorded and released to Spotify quickly?
Raw song, you mean it's not mixed at all, is my guess.
Yeah.
Well, there are plenty of people that will engineer your song online. So you absolutely can. I recommend Air Gigs for looking for help with that. If you need people, players on your song, if you need an engineer on your song, if you're looking for mastering, that could be a really great place to find gig workers to do that for you. So airgigs.com. Um, so you just have to find the right people to do it. And it will take you a few weeks to get it live. So once you have your mix, and make sure that it's good, like don't just rush it out there. Make sure that it's good and it's mastered and all that stuff. The mix is good. It's going to sound professional. And then put it up there by using a distributor. So you can't go directly to Spotify. You've got to use a distributor like CD Baby, TuneCore, DistroKid. Um, what is the other one that I was thinking of? There's a bunch of them, and there's different reasons to use either. So you kind of have to do your research. But you do need to use a distributor, and it takes them a bit to get it going. So you kind of put your release date that you want in there, and you make sure that you've got, like I said, at least 1 week, probably 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks ahead, get it up in there so it's ready to go, because you can't control how fast they get it on the platforms.
And then I had asked this question earlier, but maybe I misunderstood the question. When you had said when you release a single, they might stream it and then download it later. But what I don't understand is how you prevent people from downloading the single in the first place for free. I don't really understand the question, but I don't know if you
Well, I mean, where are you putting it? If you're putting
Yeah.
it on Spotify, people can stream it anytime they want, right?
Rebecca, are
That's
you
just the
still
world
there?
we live in. If you're really determined on selling downloads, I suppose you could not put it on streaming services, but I really don't recommend that. I think this is the world we live in. I get that, it's frustrating that we don't think artists get paid enough from streaming services and all of that, but we do need to be realistic and be like, this is where we live now. So let's take advantage of the good things that streaming does for us. And that's what I mentioned earlier about how Spotify will serve up your song. If anyone's ever listened to your music or followed you in any way, when you have a new song out, it will serve it up to them. It'll put it on their release radar. It'll put it on their Discover Weekly. It will even send an email out sometimes about your song. So we can take advantage of that algorithm and what they're trying to do to give people the music that they like, and that serves us. So I wouldn't ignore streaming services because you're just trying to, get as many downloads as possible.
Okay. And Mary just right now asked if people sign up for the option of 3 payments for the package, does the bonus for singles release?
It absolutely does. So good question. Either one, either full pay or 3 pay, you get that bonus if you sign up during this workshop. So if you want that, definitely go do it. If there's any questions so occasionally we have issues with Teachable. So what you'll do is you'll go to the page at rockyournextrelease.com/buy now. And then you scroll to the bottom and click on whether you want the payment plan or the full pay. And then it will take you to our Teachable checkout page. Now, if you have a Teachable account with us, like for example, if you've bought anything from us in the past, it will know and it will want you to put in your password. Now, if you've forgotten your password because you bought something from us 5 years ago, you will have to just ask to reset your password. We can't find your password. It won't let us. It's a privacy thing. So just go ahead and reset your password and then it will let you in and you can go ahead and buy then.
Okay. And Rebecca just repeated, I think Rebecca, it might be best to just watch the replay. She said she has no problem with streaming for free, but maybe I misunderstood what you said at the first step. I'm not talking about Spotify. That's what I couldn't understand in the wording you said.
I mean, I may have mentioned downloads because people still say that they get sales from, say, people downloading from iTunes, but those are paid downloads.
Oh,
now it's up to you if you want to offer something that you have for free. Like if you want to offer your new single in return for someone's email address, then you are getting currency. You're getting their email address. So that's one way that you can use singles if you want to.
Okay. Will the program help to get a website platform?
I do talk about websites, but I just always recommend using, if you need an actual website, use Bandzoogle. They're the best for
Agreed.
musicians. And use our promo code WOS15 and you get 15% off. If you choose them, you can try them out for free for 30 days with that promo code as well. So that's just my easiest answer is Bandzoogle is the best for musicians. Just use that.
Okay. And
you should have a website. Like if you're releasing
yes.
music, they need a place to find and connect with you other than Spotify or social media because you don't own those.
And I sell downloads on my website, the Bandzoogle site. So
Yeah,
people
that's
go on
awesome.
there and they find them and they buy it, download. We have the Judy, the single release bonus is listed. It's on it was the last one, right? She said that
Yes,
bonus on the site.
So it's not on the sales page because of the fact that it's a webinar only bonus. So if you go to the sales page and it's not on there, that's why. But if you buy during the webinar, you'll get it. I promise.
Good answer. Couple of questions about Bandcamp came up.
Yeah, you can release music on Bandcamp if you want to. It's more of a way to sell directly to your fans if you prefer to sell. It's kind of an alternative to selling on your website.
Yeah, it says we can do live streams now and make comments as you perform on Bandcamp. And
no, I didn't even know they were doing live streams now. That's awesome. Like that's great that Bandcamp is a real supporter of musicians. So I really like them as well. It's just that they duplicate a lot of things that Bandzoogle does. So I always recommend Bandzoogle.
Oh my, hang on, let me get a couple of the other quick ones done. What is bundle merch?
Bundles are, let's say you have, let's use my student as an example. She had a tea towel with her lyrics on it. She had a slap band and she had a CD of her complete works and her new CD. And she bundled them together. It's like a super fan bundle and she sold it for, I don't know, $60, $70. And people were buying them because people love bundles, or they may not necessarily just want to buy the CD, but if they want the merch that you have, then they will buy that because they want to support you.
Great. And can I pay with PayPal?
I believe that you can pay with PayPal if you don't choose the payment plan. I believe that's how Teachable works.
Oh, okay.
I think it only allows full pay with PayPal.
All right. And does CD Baby take a percentage of publishing? I can't even remember.
No, I would not. They do not if you don't allow them to be your publisher. So don't click the box that says make CD Baby my publisher because you want to retain your publishing rights. Okay. The only reason they do that is if you want them to like try to get licensing deals for you, then you can ask them to be your publisher, but I don't recommend it.
Good answer. And Mike asked how often he's worried about spam and his whole email database. And so how often can you email them without worrying about spam?
I recommend emailing people at least once a week during a push like you're releasing, especially when you release your album or EP. I would definitely email them several times. I mean, you guys, if you're on my list, you know that I email probably 3 times a week because there's a lot going on that I don't want you to miss. And generally, I don't get classified as spam. As long as you're releasing something helpful and that people like it.
Yes.
Another way to stay out of the spam folder is ask people to respond to your emails every once in a while. I know Carlene gets this. She gets people writing back, saying stuff about her concert or telling them, talking about a story that she told. And that really does help. They see, oh, this email is valuable because people are responding to it.
That definitely helps. And then we have a couple of COVID questions. Here's a long one. My album was to be launched June 6th in Toronto. The CDs were going to be shipped April 19th, but everything shut down in mid-March due to COVID. We never got the CDs. The venue closed. There were a number of COVID questions. I released the first single in June, and then my manager had a car crash. I've released 2 more singles. I go live to learn sound and MIDI ropes. I'm not good yet. I'm finally ready to stop and follow the plan. You have any suggestions as to where I start in the full plan?
Okay, sorry, I'm not sure I followed all of that, but you have your recording, right? That sounds like you have your recording. So you would start in the full plan after the section where you're getting your recording. So it's really, I would go back and make sure that you've done all the things in the previous months that don't have to do with recording, like, starting your booking research and all that stuff. But you've got your recording, so you can almost start in like 7 or 6 months out, getting all the other pieces in place.
Does the course involve or include booking post-COVID?
Booking post-COVID. Yeah, I realize that things are different. I truly believe we are on the cusp of things going back. It's not going to be the same. So I just had a student who's in Australia, and things are opening up a little bit there. So she was able to really do a tour. It didn't look like it used to, right? The venue capacity was a lot lower. Sometimes she had to do multiple shows to get more people in on the same day, but she still did it, and she did well, and she sold merch and she made money, and so I believe it's coming back. I don't think that there's any specific post-COVID strategies that are different, other than the fact that there may be fewer venues that are booking right now. So it may just be like getting back on the horse and getting out there and seeing what's available at this point, because the landscape has changed. I mean, let's be honest. But I don't think that booking in itself has changed. My student just proved that by booking an entire tour and executing it even during this time. So it's coming back, I promise. I did want to let you guys know, I know that I only gave you 15 minutes, and if you had any issues with Teachable, maybe you had to get your password or whatever, just let us know by email. Say, hey, I tried to get in, but I had this problem. We'll make sure that you get your bonuses. Okay. We'll make sure you get the extra bonus.
Do you want to do one sort of summary question?
I am happy to do any more. Last time I did this webinar, I literally stayed for an hour with extra questions. I'm hoping it's not that many this time, but I'm happy to answer any questions that people have.
This is a little bit of a summary. Do you agree that you need a combination of releasing on CD and streaming, merch and touring, and online performances, online lives, to get going as an independent musician today?
I do. I believe that as many of those things that you can do without being overwhelmed in the process, I think those are all really, really important. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to welcome all these new people. Anyone else, if you had any trouble with the website, just let us know. If you still want to get that bonus, I will extend it for the next few minutes for sure, as we're still here. But I want to welcome, let's see, Kristen and Carlos and Angelica and Mariana and Catherine and Judy B. Great to have all of you guys.
I think it was Carlos who said this is the second time he's watched this live and he just signed up.
That's so awesome, Carlos. Are you the same Carlos that was just in my boot camp? If you are, you were awesome. If you're not, you're also awesome. But
Carlos Castro.
Yes, that is you. So glad you're going to be in the Rock Your Next Release program.
That's me. Someone asked, do you cover copywriting and dealing with legal issues?
I do talk about that. I am definitely not a lawyer. I don't want to give advice on that, but I do talk about it and let you know when it's important to do it. And I also go over contracts and give you a resource for that to make sure that you've got contracts in place when you're in the studio, which is something that is often an afterthought and can get you in trouble. You don't want your producer trying to claim some of your masters or some of your writing credit. You've got to get all that stuff in order before you go into the studio. And then, contracts for side musicians and all that as well. So I definitely do have a section about that.
Okay. And how many physical CDs would you create these days? Second
That's a
part.
great question.
Do
I
people still buy?
probably would do a low run, like a 200, like whatever made sense price point wise, depending on what they're offering. How have you been doing it, Carlene? I know you're about to release an EP. What are you thinking?
The EP thing is new to me, so I don't know how. Probably like you said, the lowest, where there's enough of a price break to make sense. That's what I
It
did.
depends on if you're like planning a big tour. I would definitely get more because I do think, especially at live performances, people are still buying CDs, especially if you've got some enticing bundles. So that would make a difference.
And I want to throw in a suggestion, if you don't mind. I
Yeah.
had a huge CD release party that was free, and I think I had like over 100 people there, and I sold 2 CDs. But what happened was the woman that was going to do the merch,
I remember this.
she started talking to people and she kind of wandered off. And I was swamped with people. And that when I got finally to the table, I was able to sell like 3 or 4 CDs. But, then people kept talking to me. And then it was kind of like I hardly sold anything. So
I
you
remember this discussion, and we talked about,
um,
training your volunteers and making sure they knew what was their responsibility and stuff. That's a great point.
yes.
Yeah, you want to be open to be able to talk to people, to be able to sign things, and you want people that you know are going to be responsible and stay at the table. And I would probably have 2 people at the table, one that's taking cash and one that's taking credit card or something like that.
That's a good idea. Yeah, we'll try it again someday.
I'm so excited, Tina, that you joined.
Now,
It's going to be
Judy,
really fun to do these live calls with all of you guys too and get to know you.
is there a physical product or just online? Judy wants to know, how many webinars do you do and how much can we benefit from this? I don't understand the question either. Is there a physical product?
Is there a
Oh,
physical product would be oh, maybe you mean the course, like, is there a book or something like that comes with it? No,
oh,
it
maybe.
is all, it's an online course. It's on Teachable. There are, as I mentioned, templates and spreadsheets that you will be able to download and access on whatever platform, if you prefer Google or if you prefer like Office. I think I have both the Excel versions and the Sheets versions there that you can use for the different spreadsheets that I created for you. So those are really the like downloadables, but all the training and everything is on the Teachable platform. And also we've got downloadable, printable PDFs for the monthly checklists.
And Ivy, I think she asked this before, and Ivy, I was going to get to it. For a single release, is it smart to plan to promote 4 weeks before the launch date? 6 to 8 weeks was the standard for press. But due to the COVID season, what do you suggest?
So for a single release, I think what you're asking is you're asking about planning. And to me, doing the planning months in advance is the best way to do it, because that involves a lot of research. If you do all of your research, then when you get there, it's really easy to just start reaching out to people, whether it's for bookings, whether it's for marketing, trying to get some PR for your single, all that stuff. If you've already done all the research of who you want to talk to and you've just got it all at your fingertips, it's really easy to do when the time comes. So with the singles, like, you'll have already done all the research. So as soon as that single comes out, as it's released, then you just start going after it. You start contacting, potential playlist curators for Spotify or potential people that might want to interview you about the particular song or trying to get, on blogs or podcasts with your song.
Okay. And Miranda is saying, I have a Bandzoogle website, yay, but I need to hire someone to help me add to it. It's just basic right now. How do I find someone reputable to help with it? Bandzoogle has chat assistants, but I am not tech savvy and I need to hire someone. Any suggestions?
I do, if you could email me, I can give you a suggestion. It depends on how much you're willing to spend, really. Like, are you looking for someone who's $20 an hour? Or are you looking for someone that's going to do like design and stuff like that for you and branding? So I'm going to put my email address in the chat. So you can email me with that question. I can refer you to someone specific.
Miranda, I'm like you too, not that tech savvy, but I really need to sit down and watch their videos. But I have a decent site. It came out okay. But it's like, I haven't changed really anything on it because I'm kind of scared to. But it's,
I know it is kind of scary to change your template because you don't know what's going to do to your stuff. But yeah, they will help you if you change your template and you hate it. They'll help you get it back because I know someone that did that.
Yeah, they've done that for me on a few of my screws. Are there going to be replays of the course in case I'm working?
So yeah, so if you're talking about the live once a month call, yes, there's always a replay. That right now is scheduled for the third Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern. So I realize that might not work well for European people. We might have to switch it up occasionally, but that just happens to be what I have in my schedule. And as far as the course itself, like none of the rest of the course is live. It's all available there for you. Those calls once a month are just to answer specific questions that you might have or things that are getting you stuck or, confusion or anything. And a way for me to get to know you guys.
Lillian says, how much money would someone realistically invest in a 6-song EP? Considering studio mixing, etc., what would be a common amount to invest in this kind of project prior to any profit after the publication of it?
I mean, depending on where you're recording, if you have any special deals or anything, I mean, I would say it might cost you like $5,000 to record it at a studio. And then there's other costs, right? There's whatever your branding, your photo shoot, your you have to pay to distribute digitally. You have to pay for CDs that you're going to make. Depending on if you're doing all originals, you might have to pay other songwriters. There's a lot of things involved, but you could probably do that whole thing for, I don't know, $7,000. That's just a random number, right?
It might just depend if you don't mind. I have a studio guy that charges $60 an hour and he's a piano player. So he doesn't care what he does. He'll do the piano too as part of
it. It totally depends on the people that you find and the deals that you're able to get. And, you might find an online studio that you really like and you're able to record your own vocals from home and upload them. Like there's so many different ways to do it now.
On an iPhone, by the way. One of my best vocals came out recording it on an iPhone.
Yeah, I would have said no way to that one. So that's so interesting.
The Steady as She Goes came out. It was so beautiful. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, but it does just depend. But it's better if you have, especially if you need a band and stuff like that, and a lot of instruments, it gets much more pricey.
Is there a guarantee on your system? Generally, I only offer like a 14-day guarantee because there is so many deliverables in there that it's just not really fair to like let you have it and then be like, no, I don't want this. So, but I'm a reasonable person. So you can email if you've got any questions about that. But yeah, we don't have a published guarantee. So it's definitely not beyond 14 days.
And then
that'll give you plenty of time to go and figure out if it's really for you or not. But I think we've done a really good job of explaining what's in the course.
Someone has been disagreeing with you, too many emails. So she doesn't email her fan base more than once a week because she doesn't want them to get fed up You have
I
sent me
think
so many emails that I feel under pressure and overwhelmed. However, I'm here now. What are your thoughts?
however, I'm here now. I love that. I'm so glad that you said that. Because yes, if I hadn't have emailed you about this, you might not have showed up. So yeah, I think with musicians and fans, I think it's absolutely great to email once a week. I get a lot of pushback on that because I say once a week and other people are like, no, I only want to do it once a month because I don't want to bother them. But then it's like, then you're not front of mind for them. They'll forget about you. So I think once a month in general, I mean, once a week in general is perfect. And then if something big is happening, if you're doing a release and you're only doing that like once a year, then I think they'll live with it if you send 3 emails in a week for that. They want to know about it, especially if one of them is about your live release party and one of them is about the song is out on Spotify, go follow. They're all different. You're not sending an email about the same thing.
Okay. Oh, look at, we have a question and an answer. Do you have the name of an online studio? Rochelle, I'm just going to ask that question first because Rebecca says, I know an incredible drummer who does your tracks online for 150 pounds, and he worked with Nina Simone for 20 years. There are affordable ways of recording even during COVID, and that person's Paul Robeson drummer online. Oops, sorry, Bree, I accidentally posted that in the question area. That's okay.
That's okay.
I'm trying to go back and forth.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like I said, Air Gigs is a great place to find people like that as well.
Oh, good. Okay. And then the other part is what microphone would you recommend for recording your voice at home?
Well, I love my Rode microphone, which I have right here. I actually put it, if you're on my email list, I put it into the holiday gift guide for musicians because I love it so much. But it is a 400, well, I think it was on sale when I saw it, but it's like a $300 to $400 microphone. But I've used it for literally 20 years. I've recorded all my albums on it except the one I did in a studio, and it's been amazing. So that's it's the Rode NT microphone, condenser mic.
I have the same one and I love it.
Oh, you have it too. I must have told everybody about it because like Beth has it. A lot of people have it.
And I think we're done with questions.
Awesome. By the way, thank you to, I think it was Rebecca who said brilliant masterclass. I appreciate that.
Oh, that was nice. Peluso mics, Tina recommends.
I mean, there's a lot of good mics out there for sure. I just know the one that I like because it's been such a workhorse for me.
All right.
Oh, and by the way, I wanted to welcome Mary. Great to have you in the program as well.
One new. Do you recommend a site that is best for creating merch? I think Sarah might have asked that before. I'm sorry, Sarah. She did. T-shirts and cups and.
Yeah, there's Cafe Press. There's like a lot of them now. I should probably, if that's like a question that people have, I should probably source that out with some people and decide what the best ones are. I should actually ask my Academy members which ones they like. Do you have one that you like, or have you done local, Carlene?
I've done local.
Yeah.
When
a lot of people do local.
Yeah,
probably
I don't
because
do much
they want to like support local, and also sometimes it's easier. But I know Cafe Press is one that you can use.
Are all your references US based?
What do you mean by references?
I'm guessing like Bandzoogle and
Well, Bandzoogle totally international.
Elena, do you know? Can you tell us more what you mean?
All my international students have used this program, and I haven't heard anything from any of them. Now I get what you're saying about like, if I talk about copyright so yes, when I talk about copyright, I give the link to the US copyright because that's the one I know about. When I talk about, performing rights organizations, I mention the ones in the US. I also mention ones in other countries because at least the English speaking countries that are most common.
Sarah says there are many that are online though, and would be easy to set up with your site directly. It'd be good to research it. And she's going to do the same.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we've answered all of the questions. And before I lose my voice, because I've actually was on 2 other calls earlier today, so my voice.
Wait, One more, because this is about the course. Is
Okay.
the Rock Your Single release under another heading? And Bree, I'll answer it for you, Bree, to save your voice. I think I got this right. It's listed on this webinar, but it's not on the regular.
I think they're asking about inside of Teachable. So yes, it will be it's a totally separate course. So those of you that bought during this workshop will get it. It hasn't been added yet. I have to go in there and actually physically add it for you. So you'll have it in like an hour. And all you need to do is go to the tab at the top that says, once you've logged in, go to the tab at the top that says My Courses and click on that, and it will show you both of them once they're both in there. One says Rock Your Next Release, one says Rock Your Next Single Release. Fantastic. I'm so excited. So for those of you that were watching the replay or just weren't sure if you wanted to join yet, all those other bonuses that I mentioned during the workshop and that are on the sales page are available for the next 5 days until we close it. And you'll get emails about that. Sorry about sending you several emails for whoever was talking about that. But I do want to make sure that you know about it and that you can grab that while you still can.
Yeah.
So those will be available for the next, I believe it's 5 days.
And you don't have to open every one of the emails either.
No,
That's what I find. My people don't all do that, but I don't get to them too often. I'm cautious about it too. Just 2 other questions. You want to take them, Bree?
Sure.
What's Teachable?
Teachable is the platform that we use to house our courses.
And we use that actually at the University of Florida where I teach.
So what you'll see when you go in there, it will say Profitable Musician is the name of our academy there. So that's what you'll see is Profitable Musician, but Teachable is the kind of the platform for it that houses it.
And last one, do you feel there are many hobbyist musicians like myself who want to get published on Spotify?
Absolutely. I think that if you're a hobbyist musician, but you feel very strongly that you want your music to be heard, I mean, why wouldn't you, right? You're putting a lot of work into it. You love your music. You should be on Spotify and you should be releasing music. And this is not just for musicians that are full-time musicians. This is not just for musicians who want to make even income from music. This is for musicians who want to get their music heard and want to be able to continue to make more music. So they want to use their release to generate fans and income for themselves so they can keep perpetuating their music career. Hopefully that answered your question. All right, you guys, this has been so fun. So glad you came live. The replay will come out tomorrow, so you can watch for that in your email if you want to go back and watch any additional parts of this again. Or for those that are watching the replay, glad you watched the replay. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in your inbox.
Bye.
Bye.